Hello. Good morning, or whatever time it is where you are. I am not at my home. I am in Michigan, USA, staying at my aunt's condo for the weekend. And it occurred to me just now that I need to find lighting and where to sit and all the things. So this is kind of the best I got right here. And good time to figure that out. That I was like, oh, I don't even have a ring light with me. This should be really interesting. So that's okay. But it's all good. So I'll kind of give everybody a minute to come on and see who's joining us live before we dive in to our what's the worst that could happen if you stopped avoiding money challenge, which just cracks me up every time I say it. But it came specifically from a quote from Getting Out of Debt Joyfully book with Simone Milasas. So that's where that came from. It's just funny because I have the page open to it. Or I don't think I could spit it all out in memory, but I just thought it was so fun. My one of the girls on my team said it to me one day when we were like just talking about something else entirely. Hey, good morning, Megan. And I was like, that's the name for this challenge, because I wanted to do a money challenge, but I didn't know what to call it. So I was like, that'll be so much fun. So I'm just gonna kind of give people a minute. I'm hoping, I didn't even check to see what my phone was functioning for Wi-Fi. So hopefully it'll be good. I'm hoping I'm on the Wi-Fi here. So we'll see how that goes. Hey, Stephanie. And yeah, let's just kind of give people a minute or two. I won't wait too long. Where are you? I am in South Haven, Michigan. I am at my aunt's condo. So we are here for the weekend for my husband's birthday. And I know I planned a whole like thing while we're away, but I was like, it's easy. So he took the kids to get morning coffee, but not coffee. Hey, good morning, Kathy. And then they're gonna go down to the lake and skip rocks. That's what we did yesterday. So I kicked everybody out for a little bit so I could do this, because I was like, this is a really small condo. I have no idea where everybody, like, there's no way I could do it with everybody in here. I was like, what are we gonna do? So good time to figure that out. Oh my goodness. Yes, I love South Haven. Oh, happy early birthday, Mike. I will tell him. I don't think he's live this morning. I think he's running around with the kids. So thank you for that. So let's maybe dive in. Like, I want to give people time, but not too much time. Cool. And if you're watching this in the future, cool. I know a lot of people ask me like, what time and how long is it going to be? And I was like, I don't know. It'll be like 9:30 Central Time every day. I think I can actually make that work consistently for the 5 days. I'm not always able to. And if something comes up, I will let you know. But that is the plan. And I don't know how long they'll be. I'm sorry. Probably, like I said, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. Let's kind of see what takes us. So, oh no, not you at all, Marcia. Everybody was asking me like different things. Hey, Tracy. So, yeah, no, all good things. And I'm just so grateful to have you all here. This is so much fun. And it's actually like facilitated me a lot too, just like preparing for this and looking at like different things to talk about and just playing in the energies of money. So let's kind of dive in. If you don't know me and that like you just got invited to the money party and you don't know what that is, or you were like, yes, money. I'm Melissa Mann, and I'm a certified facilitator with Access Consciousness. I'm also a newly Joy of Business certified facilitator with Access. And it's been so amazing so far. It's just been facilitating me into so much. And one of the things I love to talk about is money, which I know is crazy because it's like one of those taboo topics that like you're not supposed to talk about. And what's really funny is I used to hate to talk about money. If my husband brought it up the other day because I was talking about like something about money and I was getting all excited, and he's like, do you remember when we used to like talk about money among friends and you would get up and leave the table because it made you so uncomfortable to like even have any kind of discussion about money? And I was like, wow, I do remember that. Like, it would just like turn my stomach. I couldn't sit there. Like, him and like a good friend of mine liked to talk about money, and they would talk about, you know, retirement funds and, you know, stock markets and all the things. And I would just like, I would have to move. I was so intense for me that I had to get up and leave the conversation. So I would like find an excuse to go to the bathroom, to get up, to go somewhere else and kind of like wait out the money conversation because I didn't want to hear it. which is insane to me now because I don't know how, maybe 10 years ago that was. And like, since I got into Access Consciousness, you know, I feel like when people start doing Access, a lot of people like have kind of like a one target or like the thing that they're really looking at. And for me, it was money. And I looked a lot at like how I could have more money in my life. And I went through a period of time where I really didn't have money. And like I said, the topic of money made me uncomfortable, and everything about money I was avoiding. And I was avoiding really thinking about money or acting on money or looking at other ways to make money. It was kind of like I set myself on this path to go to graduate school. I'm also a clinical psychologist. And like that was going to be the way that I created my life and made money. And so like I had these blinders on that like this was the only way and the only possibility for money. And like once I had decided that, hey Nikki, it was like everything else went away, and that put myself into so much debt doing that. And I mean, that's a long story, but it was like there was nothing else possible. And somewhere in there, right around the time I found the tools of Access, I was in this space where I was like really, really stuck. And it was kind of like, all right, well, there's only one way for me to make money. There's only so much money I can make at the job I was at. I was already capped at it. And I still felt house poor. I felt like there was no like other possibilities for money coming in. Certainly not on my end. The only possibility was for my husband to make more money because he worked in an industry where he could climb, but I didn't. And so I just felt super stuck. And I was like in my early 30s. And I was like, well, this sucks. Like, what else now? Like, how many years left do I go to work and do the same thing for the same amount of money for the next however many years of my life? And I was like, God, there's got to be something else. There's got to be something else possible. And I started asking questions before I knew that that was a tool of Access Consciousness, of like, what else is actually possible here? And I got into doing some life coaching, which led me into Access Consciousness. And I'm so grateful. But I tell you that whole story because it all came from a space of looking for like, what else is possible with money? And asking that question and playing in the energies of like, what could I create with money if I was willing to take off these blinders of like, this is my one job with my one paycheck and the only thing that can show up with money. So before I dive deeper, I realized that there's no way for me to do this without using the Access Consciousness clearing statement because it's sort of part of who I be. And so if you've never heard that before, and I realize there's people who have told me that they're doing this challenge with me who have not ever had any Access Consciousness before. So that goes right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds. And if that sounds crazy to you, if it sounds like gobbledygook, awesome. You don't have to understand it in order for it to work. Basically what it is it's like a magic wand. You bring up the energy of something and we say like, everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it all, please? And if yes, you're willing to destroy and uncreate it, just say yes. You can say it in your head, you can say it out loud, and you have choice. You always have choice. You can say no. If you're like, nope, I'm not ready to let go of that limitation yet. Cool, and that's okay too. But just be aware that I'm gonna bring that up probably a lot, and just everything that is, will you destroy it and uncreate it? Right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds. And if you'd like more information, Dr. Dane here explains it really, really well on a website called theclearingstatement.com. So you can go to that and he gives you like a whole like explanation of what the whole clearing statement is. So I don't want to take too much time with that, but I'm aware that you might have never heard that before. And if this is your first introduction to Access Consciousness, boy, am I so freaking glad that you're here, because the tools of Access are the things that have completely changed my world and my reality when it comes to money. And every day it gets greater. And part of that is acknowledging the choice to be greater, to have more, and to have a different reality with money than everything that I've been taught that money has to be. So everything this already is bringing up or letting down, can we destroy and uncreate that? Yeah, right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds. Cool. So I called this challenge, what's the worst that could happen if you didn't avoid money, or if you stopped avoiding money or something? I don't even have it memorized. But it came from my lovely friend Megan, who we were having a conversation in my team, and I was like trying to decide how much to charge for an upcoming series. And there was this discussion of like, hey, you're really not charging enough. And she said, I'm in the middle of reading Getting Out of Debt Joyfully, which I have sitting here with me. So that is this book by Simone Milasas. And I just came across this question: what's the worst that could happen if you didn't avoid money? And I was like, that. And so I was like, that's the thing, is like, where are all the places and spaces that we're actually avoiding money, that we're not acknowledging? And if you're hearing me say that and you're like, but that's stupid, I'm not actually avoiding money. Why would I avoid money? Of course I want money. Hear me out. So when I think about like all the places I was avoiding money, it's one, it's the things you're not willing to do or be. And it's also all the judgments that come up around money, which we'll talk a little bit more about tomorrow. But if you look at this for a minute, I was even just talking to my husband this morning. I had a friend a couple years back who like bought a brand new Volvo. And I remember being like, he thinks he's so cool. He thinks he's so special with his brand new Volvo. Who would ever spend that much money on a car? That's, I had all sorts of judgments around it, right? And now I can remember having those conversations and being like, wow, I can see now how much that was me avoiding money, because I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to be a person who was like, look at my shiny new thing. And I had judgments around it, and so I didn't want to be that. And so everywhere that I didn't want to be that, I was actually avoiding money in my life because I decided what somebody who had money was like. And so everywhere that you've done that, everywhere that you've seen somebody else with a brand new, luxury vehicle, or somebody's brand new diamond earrings, or somebody like you see their mansion, or whatever it is, like where you go into this like judgment of yourself, but you flip it into a judgment of them, where you're actually also judging you and you're also judging them, and there's so much judgment, you're actually uninviting money into your life because you're going, oh, I don't want that. So everything that is, can we destroy and uncreate it? Cool. Right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So where else might you have been avoiding money? Is it because you're afraid that if you had money, that people would start asking you for money? And I went, a successful business. Yeah. And what have you decided it would create if you had a successful business? What have you decided it would create if you had so much money you didn't know what to do with? What have you decided that people would want from you, people would expect from you, people would judge about you and think that now you're the asshole with money? So one of the things that Simone Milasas said in our Joy of Business Certified Facilitator training that I've brought up a lot, so you may have heard me say it since because it really struck me, was that in order to have money and to have a successful business, you have to be willing to be envied, lusted, and judged. And I was like, oh my gosh. Megan said, oh God, I used to avoid money like it was my job. Yeah, absolutely. And we can start to see it now. But are you willing to be judged? Are you willing to be envied? Are you willing for people to look at you and be like, oh, I wish I could have that? Because you've decided somewhere that envy was wrong and bad. And so if people envied you, that you want to be humble and like, oh, I don't really have those things, or they're really not that big of a deal, or like, and you downplay and you downplay and you downplay. So you're not actually willing to have money in your life. And every time that you've done that, rather than going into judging it, would you be willing to just pull that up now and say, cool, I don't want to choose that anymore. So everything that is, I destroy it and create it. Right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Cool. So I wanted to read just a little bit out of that section. It's not much. It's like two paragraphs. So Simone says, do you avoid doing new things that could make you money? How many situations have shown up where you could make money and you said, no, I don't have time for that. I couldn't go there. I couldn't possibly do it. Have you ever been asked to do something and you thought, I don't have the capacity to do that, so you refused and avoided it rather than giving it a go? What if you had asked yourself, what's the worst that could happen if I didn't avoid this and just chose? Choice creates awareness. If you were avoiding public speaking and you asked, what's the worst thing that could happen if I actually did public speaking, you might ask, well, I could freeze up and forget what I was going to say. Would it really be that bad? And then you might say, well, if that happened, I could just stand there, look at the crowd and smile. People love the vulnerability of you being you in any situation. If you're not avoiding anything, it is easier to be you. You get to have more of you no matter what is going on, because you do not have to twist and turn or hide yourself to avoid anything. What will definitely create more money in your life is becoming more of you. So what capacity with money do you have that you've been avoiding to prove that you are good enough and kind enough and humble enough, and all the ways that you've bent and folded and mutilated yourself into being what you think you're supposed to be, which is not having money? Will you destroy and uncreate that? Right, wrong, good, bad, POD, POC, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Cool. So one thing I wanted to touch on today, and I don't want these to be super long, and I knew that today would be a little longer than all the others because I wanted to give an intro and a background and all the things. But what people do a lot, what I hear people do a lot, kind of in the metaphysical world, but it's even kind of like stretched beyond that at this point, where people use this word manifest. And manifest actually means how it shows up. So when you're like, I'm going to manifest something, you're like, I'm going to, how it shows up, a new car, which doesn't make any sense. So, so I give you this piece of information. If you've heard this before, cool. And if you haven't, I want to invite you to start using the word actualize. So there's little things about the words that we use when we talk about like inviting money in and like asking the universe for something. And our day 1 challenge is about your asks. So what are you actually asking for? And have you acknowledged when what you're asking for isn't congruent with like what the energy underneath it is? And so some of that comes into like the energy of words. And Danielle Carter does these amazing calls of the energy of words. If you ever want to check those out, you can go to her website, and like she goes into like all the different words and what they mean. But we talk about it a lot in The Joy of Business and in the How to Become Money workbook and some of the other like money books within Access. Money Isn't the Problem You Are goes through and talks about like the different like meanings of words that we use every day and what we're actually asking for. So today I want to just look at a couple. The manifest actually means how it shows up, and actualize is that it shows up. And so somewhere in, I don't know, the universe, people started using this word manifest to ask for things, but it's confusing to the universe when you're asking for how something shows up rather than that it shows up, because it's not actually your job to figure out how it's going to show up. So you might be asking for a new car. I don't know why cars are like my example for everything today. There might be a new car in my future, who knows? I have not fully like looked at this, but so you might be asking for something like that. And you've decided that the only way that can show up is if you go to this dealership and you buy this car by this person, where when you've decided that it has to look a certain way, you're shutting off all the energies where somebody else might actually gift you a car, or somebody else you might get in an accident. Not that you're asking for that per se, but you know, I had a facilitator tell a story one time that she had been asking for a new car, and she ended up in a minor fender bender. Nobody was hurt, but it was enough to total her car from like how much it was worth and everything else. And she ended up getting a new car, and she'd been asking for a new car, but it ended up like insurance covered it and all the things. And she's like, nobody was hurt, everything was fine, I just got a new car out of it. Well, cool. So everywhere that you're like using that word manifest instead of actualize, you're trying to control things, and you're trying, and we don't realize we're doing this, right? We've just been taught it. So, but acknowledge that like that word is like trying to, like, you're actually allowing like this much room for something to show up because you've decided how it has to show up. Where if you would actually be like, hey, what's it going to take to have a new car? What's it going to take for this beautiful like jewelry I've been eyeing to show up? What's it going to take to have the money to take this class I've been wanting to take? And then you kind of do this, like you ask the question and let the universe do its job of rearranging the molecules and like creating that thing for you. And it might not look at all what you think it's going to. So instead of saying manifest, start using the word like actualize. I'd like to actualize this, you know, and start asking questions instead of making statements. So that's something else that people do a lot with money is like, I am manifesting $1,000. Okay. And it kind of like has this clunky energy to it because it's very like matter of fact conclusion. and you're not leaving space for anything. But if you ask a question, you allow the universe to contribute to you, and you're being more space with it. And so it's like, instead of doing this, it's like you kind of have this. Does that make sense? So the other word I want you to play with is the word want. So I have this conversation a lot in like one-on-one sessions, because people will say, well, I want a relationship, and I want a job with more money, and I want a new house, and I want, and I've invited people that the word want actually means to lack. And so when you say like, I want this, you're actually saying I lack this. And so the universe, as lovely as it is, will follow whatever command you're giving it, basically. So if you're like, I want money, you're saying I lack money, and the universe is like, okay, guess you want to lack money then, and then you're not getting more money. And so one of the like fun things to play with is saying I don't want money 10 times, or as many times as is fun for you. So I thought we could do that together. Hey, Crystal. And then we'll kind of dive into like our actual challenge for today. But so play with this with me just for a minute, just to feel the difference of the energy. So if we say I don't want money, which means I don't lack of money, right? I don't want money. 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 It makes you lighter. Why? Because it's true. Because you don't actually lack of money. You've just come to some conclusion or some, what is the word I'm looking for? I don't know. But you've decided that you lack of money. And so when you're like, I want money, it feels heavy because it's a lie. But when you say, I don't want money, it's lighter because you can be money when you choose it, and you can have the money that you'd like to have. So play with that a little bit. So I tell you all of that as sort of a background to today's challenge, is to actually look at your asks. What are you asking for? And what would you really like to have with money? Hey, Rogerio. So would you like to have, like, look at how much money you'd like to have a month, how much money you'd like to have coming in. And then look at how much, like, what else are you asking for? Are you asking for a nice dinners? Are you asking for beautiful clothing? Are you asking for jewelry? Are you asking for the money to take classes that light you up, that are fun for you? Are you asking for anything, art? Are you, like, there's so many things that people ask for when it comes to money. And sometimes it's like, okay, I would just like to come out of lack, so I just like this amount of money, which is cool. But also look at, like, what is it that like lights you up about having money, and what is exciting for you about money. I did a live at some point about this, about like asking like the question of like, what actually excites me about money? Because when it's just money for the sake of money for the sake of money, sometimes we get kind of like, especially as humanoids, and that's a whole separate conversation. I'm like, do I really want to dive into the humanoid conversation? If you're listening to this, you're a humanoid. Just bear with me on that. But as humanoids, we tend to make ourselves wrong and tend to think that everybody else is right. And so, as humanoids, we tend to, like, money for the sake of money feels like, why? Clunky. Like, why would I have money just to have money? So start looking at like what money is actually exciting for you. Like, what would you really like to have? My oldest son loves cars, and he loves to like work on cars and like buy new parts for cars and make them super souped up. And like, if he had millions of dollars, I think he would just like work on cars all day and have like all of these cars that he's like creating. And that's like one of the things that lights him up. I love travel. And I love like hosting and creating. I've really been asking for like some Airbnbs that I can, forgot how powerful Access Bars is. Yeah, absolutely. And get your bars run. Side note, I'll throw that in more at the end. I'm going to lose my train of thought otherwise. Little ADHD here, all over the place. So, but what is it for you that actually like excites you about money? And what if you had $1 million coming in every month? If you had $10 million coming in every month, what would you actually choose? And what would be fun for you? And start to look at that energy when you start to look at like, what is it that you're really asking for with money? So that's your goal, I don't want to use the word goal, target. So if you've never heard that difference, I still say goal sometimes, and I don't mean goal. That's another energy of words thing. So target is like a moving target. It can move, it can change, it gives you more space. But would I come to Belgium to teach a class? Hell yeah, I would. I have an aunt in Belgium. Yeah, let's have that conversation, not here. And so when I know I like see I ADHD, totally lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Oh my god. Energy. Asks. Yep, there we go. Okay, I'll get there. When you're willing to like look at like what is actually fun for you about money, what lights you up about money, what you would create with the money that you had, it creates more space for you. So what is it that you're really asking for? And one of the things that I love to do, squirrel, right? Seriously. One of the things that I do like monthly is I do a monthly asks. And I record it. I drive for like an hour each way on Mondays. And so Mondays are like my day whenever I remember to like just hit record on a voice record and just look at all the things I'm asking for right now. And I do that once a month. But today I'm asking for you to take a notebook or do it out loud, but like record it so you can listen back later. Do something so that you have a record of it. And just look at all the things that you're asking for with having money. What lights you up about money? And how much would you like to have right now per month that you maybe aren't currently having? And then what would you like to have with it? And just play with it, and anywhere you start going to judgment, anywhere you start like making yourself wrong or being like, that's not possible, or that'll never be possible, or I don't know how that's going to show up, or you start going into the computation of like how, like you start computing like, oh, I would have to do this in order for that to show up, or I would have to like pull money from this for that to show up, or you start trying to compute, just destroy and uncreate it. Right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds, until you just are like able to be space with it and just have fun and ease with it. And if the clearing statement is something that you're not super familiar with and you're like, but I don't know how to say those words, all you have to say is pod and poc, which is point of creation and point of destruction. And point of creation is like wherever you created that like point of view in any lifetime, and the point of destruction is everywhere you're using that to destroy you. And so you can just say, okay, everything that is pod and poc that. And come like post in the Facebook group and let me know what comes up for you. If you want to post your asks, you can, you don't have to. I know some people that's really personal to them, and other people are like, no, I want to tell the world what I'm asking for because that'll like bring more of it into my world. Whatever works for you and whatever's comfortable for you, but start playing with this today of like what you're really asking for. And then over the next 4 days, we'll come up with other things to do to start really like having the energy of money in your life. All right, I think that's all. I don't even know how long this went. 30 minutes. Cool. I don't think the rest of the like days will be this long. I just wanted to give you guys a little background, and just as you're asking for things, just be wary of that word manifest and be wary of the word want. So really start to like say like, I'm asking for this if you're looking for language, or I'd really like to have this. Those are the things. And be then congruent with the energy. That's so confusing for me. Yeah, and so Crystal asked about being congruent with the energy. And so right now, even if it feels incongruent, just pod and poc anywhere that you're not being congruent with it, or if you're like, oh, I want this, but be aware of what's coming up for you too, because tomorrow we're going to talk about our point of view about money. And like, I know I talked a little bit about it, but more on like how our point of view creates our reality with money. And so then we start to actually like look at like where we're not being congruent, and just pod and poc right now, just pod and poc your way through all of it. That anywhere you're like, yes, I'd like to have this, but what if this happens or that doesn't work out, or, but then it would mean this, or like all those things that like we go into like deciding what it would mean if we had this nice car, or we had this jewelry, or we had this much money coming in, just all those like judgments that are coming up, just pod and poc them. Another tool you can use is interesting point of view, which we can talk more about tomorrow. But if you're familiar with the tool, you just interesting point of view. I have this point of view for any like judgment that's coming up around it. But right now for today, just focus on your asks. Just focus on like, what are the things you really like to have with money? And if you're looking for time frames, you can say like just how much money you'd like to have a month, and maybe have that ask for the next like 6 months to a year. But it doesn't need a time frame. So please, if it's like, oh, I'd really like to have a mansion on the ocean, don't leave that out because you're like, well, there's no way I can create that this year. Just throw it in there anyways. Don't go into too much computation about the how, the when, any of that. Just ask. And yeah, see what shows up. So I'm going to let you guys go with that. Thank you so much for being here with me on this challenge. This is so much fun. And I'm so grateful for all your energy and for everybody who's on live and for everybody listening in the future. And if you have questions coming up, if there's stuff popping, please post in the Money Party group. That's why I created this group. And it's been a group, I don't know for how long now, over a year. And I created it to do stuff like this in it. And I've been running clearings and doing all sorts of different things in it. But this is so fun. So please, like, post your questions, post what's coming up for you, post your asks if you want. And I will see you guys all tomorrow at the same time at 9:30 Central Standard Time, which is funny because I'm currently on Eastern Time. So but I'll be back on Central Standard Time by Monday. So I'm like, just stick to that. So anyways, all right. I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much. Bye.